All right.
Let's talk about Diablo 4. It is the launch day, Richard. The official launch
The
day.
official launch day.
We made
Yes.
it. It's been a long journey. The channel has been covering Diablo 4 and its developments. Richard, we have been on the first beta back in March. We have been with this game, playing
Yes.
it, and we did the first, the second, and the server slam as well, following what changes have come to the official launch from the first beta. And we have some gameplay here. This is my gameplay on a Corsair One Pro A200 using the AMD Ryzen 9 5950X 16 core CPU, 3.4 gigahertz with a boost up to 4.9. Have to have that boost, Richard. Excuse me, 64 gigabyte RAM DDR4 with base at 2666 megahertz, though it can be overclocked to 3200, which is what it's overclocked to on an XMP profile, using an NVIDIA RTX 3080 Ti 12 gigabyte GDDR6X. So, Richard, let me talk about my character build here and what I am using. I'm using a Necromancer. That is my class. I built a primary shadow build with physical damage. So primarily shadow and then have that additional physical to use. And I take advantage of cold damage with my mages and physical damage with my with my reapers. And the skills I have used, I can go through those as we talk about the gameplay. Though, Richard, tell me about your class and what you have built in the gameplay as Richard and I
Yeah.
playing.
Well, I was a big fan of Diablo 2. I played Diablo 2. I didn't play so much of the Diablo 3, but Druid was my favorite class. And as a lot of folks have probably heard, at least when the beta was out, it was extremely disappointing to play as the Druid, honestly. But he is getting a little bit better after getting past, I'd say, like level maybe like 30, 35. It starts to feel like it's coming together. But my build, I decided to go with a Thunder Lightning Werewolf. And it's been a ton of fun. Ton of fun.
And we've gone through a number of dungeons. I, for example, with one of the aspects of power, I have received the Bone Prison, which spawns a pool of blight that does 100% damage over 6 seconds. I combine this with my Dragon Spine of Plunging Darkness, which, Richard, is a rare drop, and you gave that to me as a gift, and I very much appreciate it
Oh,
because you are
you're welcome. You're welcome.
farther ahead in this game. I'm level 32 right now. You are close to 50 to get to use the
Yeah, I'm
Paragon.
at 45 right now.
45. Okay,
Yeah,
so almost that
getting
dungeon
there.
time to then be able to use the Paragon system. And for my Necromancer, I'm using Book of the Dead, of course. My Skeletal Warriors are set as Reapers. 15% chance to carve out enemies. Skeletal Mages set to cold, cause vulnerability for 4 seconds when enemies are frozen or damaged while frozen. And I love this Golem, Richard. We talked about
Yeah.
this. He's my bodyguard. It changed the game as a Necromancer. I die less with
Oh,
him.
I believe it. You got your big beefy guy there to keep you alive.
I can be closer in combat like a barbarian and not have to stay back as much because he's there. And
Yeah.
while I'm healthy, he gains 25% damage reduction and 50% increased damage, which is just awesome. So when I'm fighting, he's right there with me. And then when I select whether it's on 1, 2, 3, or 4, I think based on the gameplay here, I changed it. But no, he's set to 3. So that's when I can unlock him. He does this roar, and then he goes smash like the Hulk on people. It is so great. But I will say earlier I did try the Decrypify. That is a physical damage ability, and it slows down enemies. So that combination with the cold and
Mm,
cursing, it looks like a blue circle with
hmm.
and it curses an area, with the Reapers doing the cold, and excuse me, the mages doing the cold, and then slowing down the enemies with the curse. That gives me that gives me some advantage there playing. But we have, in playing this, we build on each other's skills that we have unlocked.
Yeah, I think team play in Diablo 4 is I don't want to say OP, but it definitely is far easier than when you're playing by yourself. And it is because characters overlap with each other and complement each other, which is fun to do, especially if you're planning on playing with a friend consistently, kind of planning out your builds so that way they can match up is a good thing. For instance, like me being the druid, I have some really great poison abilities that would work very nicely with, say, a rogue. I also have good lightning abilities that would chain well with a sorcerer, right? So talking with a friend and finding out what they're going to be building and deciding what you want to build and kind of overlapping is going to give you a lot of benefit and a lot of again, I don't want to say overpower, but it makes the game quite a bit easier.
It's an advantage. I
Yes.
think that's the
Yeah, that's
right
a good way to
word.
put it.
And
Yeah.
you have an ability that causes vulnerability across
Yeah,
enemies.
so
I've seen that.
my build is kind of it's kind of opposite of yours, which is probably why it works so well with teaming up with you. Whereas you have to
Opposites
rely on this.
attract, Richard. They
Yeah, right.
attract.
Exactly, exactly. Where you have this big guy going in there and protecting you, I kind of just take everything on the face, every punch, every hit, and just kind of like live through it. It's kind of crazy. As I said, the druid felt very slow and not a lot of damage. Damage is still not too high, I'd say, and I'm at level 45, but I'm doing enough where I'm satisfied. But the only time I die these days, or if I get frozen and I can't like heal myself. Beyond that, I'm at like 6 out of 6 potions and constantly just regenerating health with the legendaries that I have and the way that the druid is built. So I'm definitely a tanking, trying to keep the enemies busy while you go around and just chop them when they're distracted, which is great.
And then also with the slowing down the enemies that I can do, and even
Yeah.
freezing them with my mages, that
Yep.
allows you to have opportunity. It makes it opportune for using the poison as well.
And I can tell you, like, the other thing that I tried to focus on too with my build is I kind of wanted to be a vulnerability producing machine. I was telling you while we were playing, like it's comical to me when I have all these enemies surrounding me. I push one button, and next thing they're all vulnerable, taking 20% more damage from the two of us at minimum. That's not including any of the buffs that we have from any gear or abilities.
Yeah, you've
So
been hitting the blue color for the overpower, if I am not mistaken, for the damage you
yeah,
do. You
yeah.
see that as
Yeah, I've
yeah,
been. I think that comes primarily from my cyclone armor and my hurricane ability that I've been
okay.
using, which is are great AOE attacks. So I tried to have a healthy mix of AOE to one-on-one damage, kind of with like the werewolf skill being like if I have to go in and attack one specific person, and then I have these other area effects for when the mobs kind of show up.
What is your favorite ability thus far? What would you say?
Oh, favorite.
Is it difficult?
It's difficult because it depends on the situation. I will say the ultimate that I chose Lacerate for my ultimate for my druid. I think it's super cool. I wish it did more damage. Again, the druid I feel like is not a damage producing machine, but a damage taking machine. But that one, it's fun to see the werewolf trying to bounce around between like 12 different enemies, slashing them up and everything. It's fun. But how about you? How do you feel about your necro? What's your favorite ability?
I was going to ask, can you guess based on the time we took?
Oh, I know. Folks, you should have listened to this guy once he got the golem going. His response to it just beating up everybody for him was hysterical. He was laughing his butt off.
Yeah,
So it's definitely the golem.
those enemies were those enemies were taking my lunch money, and they no longer could do that because I had my big bad, bloody.
So I
Yeah.
gotta ask you, how did that thing? Have you tested that thing out like solo against a boss? Does it hold up? Do you think it's going to hold up in the late game? Are you concerned about that at all?
I am interested to see that. Now, we are playing on World Tier 2. I do see that it can regenerate on its own. I'm still looking into why it is doing that. What about my build is the reason it is doing that? And if anyone knows watching this, let me know in the comments because I'm scratching my brain on this. But I'm not convinced or I'm not confident to say that it is a OP feature for the necromancer, but seeing it in the late 20s and 30s going through the dungeons. We're not doing nightmare dungeons yet, so these are just basic dungeons. But yeah, Richard, we need to put it to the test. We really do,
Yeah,
because
yeah, we
we've
do.
gone through boss fights and dungeons. It only dies if I have died, and I have not died nowhere near as often. I think as soon as I got him, we went 4 or 5 hours, and I think I died once.
Yeah,
And
and to let folks know too, the other thing with the druid is I'm going to take some of that credit too, there,
yeah,
Joey, because
no,
I
you
have
should. You should.
some
It's not all
abilities
me.
there that with the legendaries that I equipped, it is fantastic to support your teammates. So I'm able to heal Joey when he needs to get healed. I'm able to give him protection both from physical and non-physical attacks for a certain amount of time because my abilities with the legendaries that I have are automatically applied to my allies.
I need
So
that support, Richard.
that's
That
what I'm here
emotional
for.
support playing
That's what
this
I'm
game.
here for, buddy.
Sanctuary is a lonely and cold place. It really is. So. But the corpse explosion, it's tied. Honestly, it is
Yeah,
tied.
yeah, that's
I
pretty cool
love
too.
exploding corpses. Now, when Blizzard announced, I think it was after the second beta, which was the first open one, they did announce they were decreasing or nerfing its effect. And it saddened me, but I was determined still to do it.
Yeah, that you were. Yep, yep,
So,
absolutely.
so
I
I
was
got a
asking you
five
that. I'm
on
like, are you
five
still
on
doing
that.
that?
And
Yeah, yeah.
that's just so much fun. I will never get tired of doing that, honestly. So I think that let's talk about dungeons for a moment.
Yeah.
And we talked about in a former Last Week in Gaming episode how we were talking about the server slam and we were talking about the dungeons. Now the dungeons have been quote unquote reworked so that there is less backtracking that takes place. And we were looking at the maps and we were seeing that they were indeed circular, as in
Yeah.
it looks like you go in you're not going back and forth. You're not going from one point all the way down to a farther other point, but
Yeah.
there is
They're either like a circle or like a lollipop shape
yeah,
kind of a thing, which
yeah.
is like a circle at the end, right? So
So
same type of thing.
we can further confirm that from our last show and our former show rather. And then also I remember there was a mobility increase for when in the dungeon you pick up an object that you need to place on a lever or a
Hmm.
pedestal. And I remember you and I picked that up. I mean, we were sprinting. We
Yeah, yeah,
were
yeah.
Olympian
On the move.
athletes there. It was no joke. So that was very noticeable. Any other thoughts on dungeons, Richard?
Not dungeons per se. I think they've done a pretty good job. Hopefully they don't get too repetitive, right? I'm, when you get down to the nightmare level where they are producing, all these extra enemies and extra challenges for you, I hope that you don't get tired of the layout, right? So I guess time will tell with that kind of a thing.
Yeah. Yeah, time will tell. And I think the nightmare dungeons are what are going to add some dynamic to the game so we don't get burnt out on the
Yeah.
dungeons as well. And we just learned recently they're working. So season 1, they are wrapping up. This is going to go in a daily gaming update, though. Since we're on the show, I will just talk about it. They are close to wrapping up season 1,
Mm,
and they are working on 2 expansions as
yeah.
well.
Yeah, I
So
read
they're in
that.
it to win it for this game. and it's
Yeah,
done
well,
really
this
well
is this is
announcing.
their baby now for a
Yeah,
while, right?
yeah.
And they've done well. They've definitely done well. It's fun to play. It's addicting.
Yeah, it is. It's difficult for us to put it down. The story is great. I'm wearing my Inarius shirt
Oh,
as
nice,
well
nice.
out of excitement. So, the Church of Light, will it prevail against Lilith and the darkness? Well, I think that is our segment for Diablo 4. If you're not playing it now, go out and play it and enjoy it like we have. And we plan to do future segments on this, panel segments as well, especially when the seasonal content comes out, talking about the Eternal Realm and what that's going to be like, where you may have to retire your former builds and then extract from those builds to create new builds. So there's much more to come
Oh, wow.
on the channel.
Nice.
All right, moving forward here.